Hello, and welcome to the 2020 EDUCAUSE virtual conference. We're excited to have you join us today for a discussion about leveraging machine learning to advance data maturity and innovation in higher education. My name is Sherry Bennett, and I'm Chief Data Scientist at DLT, a tech data company. Joining me today are three fabulous speakers, Dr. Brian Wright, who's the Director of Undergraduate Programs for the School of Data Science at UVA, Yawar Shams, Director of Analytics at HelioCampus, and Michael Anderson, who is the Chief Strategist, Public Sector at Informatica. Gentlemen, let's start today by having you each tell us a little bit about your organization and your role within the organization. Can we start with you, Dr. Wright?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. All right. So I'm an assistant professor here at UVA in the new School of Data Science. It's the first one in the country here at UVA. So we've created a whole new college. And so part of all our jobs here at the school is to obviously teach classes. We have classes in the master's and undergrad, but also we're kind of building out the school itself because it is very new. It's almost just a year now. And a part of my role is I'm director of undergraduate programs. So I'm building undergraduate programs and then also supporting some of the existing programs we have. And then my background is in education. So I'm building actually what we call it's a collaboratory, which basically is a joint kind of mini school between us and the School of Education here at UVA. So we're developing joint programs there. And then we're supporting kind of university initiatives to apply data science to kind of student success and recruitment measures. So, yeah, that's what I do.
Excellent. Yawar?
Thank you, Sherry. I am Yawar Shams. I am the Director of Data Analytics at HelioCampus. You can see it here. And so a quick background and history. About 4 or 5 years ago, University of Maryland Global Campus had their own Office of Data Analytics. So that office and the capability was spun off as a venture company under the UMGC venture HelioCampus came out of. So the venture invested in the company where they thought that the type of services in data analytics and data science could be productized and could be developed in scale that could be utilized for several institutions. So HelioCampus is a data analytics shop in the higher education space. And right now, currently, office located in Bethesda and serving several US institutions where UMGC is one of their core clients. And I am serving in the UMGC clientele team, and my client is an UMGC that I focus heavily on.
Thank you. Mike?
Sure, thanks, Sherry. As the informatics public sector strategist, that kind of gets me involved in a lot of different areas and a lot of different verticals, if you will. That includes the federal government space, state and local government, and as well higher education institutions. And higher education institutions are one of my favorite. Why? Well, I've got a daughter in college right now, so I find that interesting. Use her experiences to help guide how I bring Informatica's resources and subject matter expertise across large-scale data management. And really, I get up every morning motivated by being able to bring those resources to bear to help our customers and our clients really reach their objectives on their toughest data management challenges. Informatica has been in business for over 25 years, based in Silicon Valley, and we've been supporting a multitude of universities, colleges, and even K through 12 educational settings on their needs for data management. So happy to be here today. Happy to join you, Sherry, Yawar, and Brian on this great discussion. Thanks.
Excellent. So the panel is really great because we have three really smart guys, each coming from different perspectives. So you have Mike with Informatica sort of talking about solutions that he works directly with universities to help them set best practices and data governance, cataloging, integrating disparate data sources across universities with security, privacy, all of those things. Yawar from sort of a service product perspective, working closely with UMGC now, but other universities, you show them how to use data, leverage it to really change academic operations, administrative operations, and then you replicate those solutions to other universities. And then, of course, Dr. Wright, who, from an academic perspective, collaborates across departments and with the School of Education to create cross collaborations for leveraging data for projects. And then, of course, teaching research methods and data science techniques to students, which just sounds like a lot of fun anyway. I have to sign up for one of those classes someday.
You're more than welcome. Yeah, anytime.
So, from your different perspectives, let's start with Yawar. How has machine learning and the more general use of data science been utilized in the university that you're serving right now, UMGC, to fuel innovation? And if you could talk a little bit, because it's a really good use case, how has it matured over time?
Okay, thank you, Sherry. So from HelioCampus perspective, we take a generalized approach in how we go about into an education institution and try to serve in the data analytics space. So there is a common theme there. But I will be focusing heavily on when I pull up use cases in responding to this question. I will heavily focus on University of Maryland Global Campus. One of the advantages of UMGC and data analytics space with UMGC is that they're pretty big. So thousands of students are there. And another advantage is not advantage, but the key feature is that a majority of the courses is online. So when it is online, then there is an ample opportunity to collect a lot of information about the students and their engagement inside the classroom that you can blend and can enrich your analytics capability there. So that's what I'll focus on. So when you are mentioning about how machine learning are being used today in our organizations or from HelioCampus perspective and how they have matured so far. So let me start with maturity question first. So the way we define or is loosely defined maturity is that the data maturity is basically in how an organization utilize the data. And so the more they use the data, the more mature they are in the data maturity scale. So that definition is more of a utility or utilization-based maturity. So let's stay focused on that maturity definition, but there are other aspects of data and data maturity when it comes to like how much data you collect and how you manage the data. That itself has its own maturity curve. So here for this purpose, I will focus on the data maturity on the data utilization perspective and focus on that particular area. And so one of the things I was reading recently was that there was an EDUCAUSE Center for Applied Research study by Jacqueline Bichel, where the author found that today, when they compared with history, today these institutions of higher education are collecting a lot more data than they used to previously. But what is also found that the usage of the data is limited, and it is somewhat limited to only credentialing and reporting. So as you see that there is a lot of opportunities there in moving through the maturity curve when it comes to data and MC utilization. And so the way we use it, data in at UMGC, for example, is that we take an approach of student life cycle based data utilization. So why we do that? The students first are at the inquiry stage. So they are inquiring about your institution, they're inquiring about different programs, they're looking for different options there. So they are coming out to you at the top of the funnel. Once they like you or understand more about you, then at some point they will apply. And once they apply, then once they go through that process, then at some point they will enroll into your program as new students. And then once they enroll, they take classes, they complete their first term, and their journey of progression starts with your university. Notice one thing is that when you start at the top of the funnel, probably 100 inquiry will be there. By the time those who apply and accepted, that number goes down significantly. And then after they enroll, then they start and accept your offer and admissions, and that number even goes down even further. And once they complete their first term to the second term, they do the journey, this funnel goes smaller and smaller, and the throughput rate goes down, right? Significant. By the time you probably end up with a lot less who actually completed successfully the program and then graduate out. So it is very important and critical that how we can improve the top of the funnel with data-driven analytics and steps that we can take. And once the students come through the funnel, how we can improve the funnel throughput rate, because at every stages of the funnel, these students, be the applicants versus students, give us a lot of information that we could analyze and try to understand and create a better experience for them so that they can progress and the university can improve the funnel progression for the students. So at UMGC, we start with a lead score. When the inquiry comes in, as soon as the inquiry comes in, based on limited information about this inquiry, we can do a scoring, and we are doing a scoring, real-time scoring about all this inquiry that comes in. So that helps us understand what is the quality of the inquiry that we are getting, and what is the properties of the inquiry that we are getting, and how we can improve the conversion rate from inquiry to application stage. Once they become an applicant, so there is an automated score that runs the new application every day. And then the advantage of this application score is that it can predict who are more likely to enroll and start at University of Maryland Global Campus. So then what you can do several things with that type of scoring and the features that you have. You can understand the quality of application that you're bringing in, and you can also understand which of the areas of the applicants you'll be focusing on so that you can improve your throughput rate and make better utilization of your expensive advising resources. And you can also then improve the conversion rate from this application to the enrollment start. Once they become enrolled, then we have a model right now that identify the students who are at risk of not persisting from their first term to the second term. So consider that at every stages, from leads to application to the students, these students are giving you more and more information that you can use your own benefit for the student benefit, and can build richer solution that can improve the student experience throughout the journey, right? So at-risk students, so what UMGC have right now is that they have this at-risk student that our advisors are using on a daily basis to interact with the students, understand where the risk is coming from, what are some of the key features, why the students are being at risk through the machine learning process, so that they can have a more meaningful and productive conversation with the student and can guide the student to the right direction. Once the students go through the graduation process, then we have a couple of more data science machine learning solutions that UMGC is utilizing today. One is a vast pool of these students that graduate. They can also come back for a higher degree. A bachelor's degree student can come back for a master's degree, and that pipeline is pretty big. So there is a big opportunity there. You can use machine learning to identify the students who are more likely to come back, alumni, and re-enroll. And so that's one area. And also you can mine these alumni who could be your first-time donor. So these are the few things that UMGC is utilizing and developing innovations into reaching out to the students and creating solution for them. And one of the key features that we also have invested in UMGC is that it is not only the modeling things, it is also how you deploy it into your CRM system or your portal, where the end users can use it as seamlessly. Because if the end users cannot use it easily, then the adoption will not be as you expect. So that's one of the key areas, like how do you build the product and how do you deploy the product and who uses the product so that you can improve the adoption rate.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Dr. Wright?
Yeah, great. Yawar, that sounds amazing. You know, I think when we think about like the landscape of innovation in the education space, I think your comments there are right on, is that I think there's a lot more data collection, but there's not a lot of utilization. So I think, and like the organizational maturity of I guess you could see of the vertical of education, I think it's pretty low. I think what we're typically best at is answering the supply relative to the, putting students out there in the world that have these skills, as compared to actually organically sourcing those, resources for our own needs campus wide. Now, I think it's changing. I think part of the reason that the data science school was founded, and one of the reasons that it got so much, so much support at UVA is its potential to basically proliferate these types of skills across campus. And so we have this, the defining, kind of ideology behind the school is that it's a school with no walls. It will have walls, but the idea is that we'll have partnerships with other schools, which is what I'm doing with our School of Education. We're developing partnerships there to help, to do research together, but also do joint programming. And then also there's strategic initiatives for the university that the School of Education is involved with, because, well, it's a School of Education. So we're helping them with those things too. So I think when I think about, at least from I've been in a couple of different schools. It seems like that's typically how this evolves, is that usually there's an academic kind of genesis associated with the knowledge base that's available through faculty or students or whatever. And then it starts to kind of trickle out on campus as there's initiatives that say, hey, we should ask these data science people if they know what they're, they can help us. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing now. But I think the frontier of potential, inclusion of these innovative approaches through machine learning or whatever it might be, these kind of big data models is really pretty vast. I think we're just getting started. There's obviously some great examples out there, things they're doing at Arizona State and other schools that are really leveraging these data points. But I think the information is starting to become more and more available, which is probably the hard part, right? Just getting that data in a way that you could use it. And then kind of a systematic cultural shift to use those types of things in a way that's, appropriate and can improve student success. So I think that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, great. Mike?
Sure. Wow. Super comments from both my colleagues on the panel. And I'm going to just take it back a bit and take what both of them said about things Yawar's doing at UMGC and in the data science school at the University of Virginia with Brian's comments, and really get at when you start boiling all of these initiatives, these outcomes that they're seeking, when you start boiling it down, and especially when you're talking about leveraging modern, very advanced artificial intelligence algorithms, as well as advanced analytics. That's all fantastic, and the outcomes you can get for that are incredible for students, for faculty, for administrators, et cetera. But at the core of it in any program is really the data that's underlying it. And in order to feed those advanced tools that are doing those artificial intelligence and analytics work for you, you really need a cloud-ready data engineering capability in order to get there, whether it's on-prem Hadoop or otherwise, or within the cloud ecosystems. Lots of cloud providers out there, we all know who they are, with their massive data lakes and their capability to bring that data in, to normalize it, and then data warehouses as well. But in order to get there, some core stuff has to be done. I call it, the plumbing of data. So as you're collecting data from, on-prem sources like databases, application software, maintenance data coming in, when you're collecting data from the edge, which might be the Internet of Things, it might be machine data being driven by some of those systems on a campus, logs from various systems, applications, especially in the cloud, databases, cloud applications, et cetera, that everybody's moving to these days for efficiency and effectiveness. That creates data in the cloud as well. Number one, first and foremost, all those different sources need to be brought together to do something with those massive amount of data. Just like Brian was just saying, lots of data, and maybe not leveraging it to the best of our capabilities. So ingesting and streaming that data, files, databases, API, app integration, moving to integrating that data, cleansing it, enriching it as necessary, and then kind of preparing it and making sure it's very high quality so you can deliver it to the tools, both artificial intelligence, again, and advanced analytics that you need to do that. So you're literally delivering them to AI and ML, predictive analytics, self-service analytics, streaming analytics, you name it. And underlying all of that is the ability to, as you said earlier, catalog that information so the data can be found quickly and timely by users, students, administration, and faculty, and being able to wrap a governance wrapper around that too. So you're speaking in a common lexicon, you're able to implement policies, whether it's access and protection of the data and control of that data, all the way to applying data rules and workflows in regards to your entire ecosystem and all the applications you're using, most usually in the cloud, on-prem, hybrid, and sometimes even across clouds these days in multi-cloud. So bottom line is artificial intelligence and analytics has fantastic opportunity for higher education institutions, but the plumbing and the work underneath with that data has to be done first so you get the outcomes you want. It's the old cliche, garbage in, garbage out, and AI is only going to give you the outcome you want when that data is clean and it's complete and it's been prepared properly. So just a couple thoughts there and how we're supporting several education institutions globally now. Thanks, Sherry.
Yeah. Yeah, to your point, there's so many different facets and considerations when working with data, especially for some of these more, what I'll call more modern workloads, utilizing AI and machine learning and whatnot. I guess in the few minutes the remaining that we have, for leaders in academic institutions that are just starting their data journey, I think, most institutions have some sort of reporting. Most of it's probably automated at this point, at least we hope for them. But there's a number of universities who haven't really sort of adopted for their operations, created groups of data scientists or analysts that are really working across the board for the university for academic outcomes, or just what I call operational type solutions to really transform and reinvent how they provide services. So for each of you, I want you to think about one or two things that you would advise leaders who are just starting this journey. What should they focus on when they're trying to transform really how they use data and they leverage it across the university? And I'll start with Brian.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's probably different, totally dependent on what's going on inside those individual universities or maybe
Sure.
groups. But I do think that principally, at least for me, when I think about education, it's kind of like this, there's an old guard associated with the types of methods that they use and the types of administrative processes that are there. I mean, it's actually, governance structures from one university to the other are fairly similar, right? They have these same kind of student success environments. They have tweaks on them. So incorporating like a team of data scientists, that would be like a to a certain extent, a radical, departure from what is a normative process, the provost and the, chief operating officer. And so I think that, at least for me, I think the cultural part of looking at this as a strategic advantage and then designing your governance around the ability to be able to leverage it is probably the hardest part.
Yeah.
I think that just like other, I've been involved in some of these corporate startups where they say, hey, find the pockets that are already kind of high activity that you can use as a great example of how these things work, and then grow from there. Go where the soil is the most fertile, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
And so if there are pockets where, so as an example, there's lots of econometric modeling that's been done for years on campuses about selectively identifying students that would likely to enroll. Like, this is not a new area. And so, but you could extend that to include certain, machine learning based approaches or data science, something that would be more akin to, an AI type system. And so there might be already that organic knowledge there, and the adaption of it might be higher. And then you get proof of concept, and then that would give you a way to say, hey, look, it's growing, here it's bearing fruit, to continue with that analogy, and then extend it from there. So that's kind of the way I would think about it, is this cultural identity about how you can prove that these can work, and then slowly roll it out in a way that's that's purposeful.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, Brian nailed a lot of issues there that we recommend. One, first and foremost, a university getting going, or maybe has some pockets, as Brian said, of success with managing data. If you back that back up to a larger entire educational standpoint, you've got to start with a data strategy. And part of that data strategy that you're going to put together and put to paper has to be initially a data maturity assessment. Know yourself first is what we always say. If you don't know yourself first and you don't know the lay of the land, you're going to have a hard time implementing changes or know where you need to go. So the data maturity assessment is a key portion of that strategy. You've got to implement that strategy. Everybody's been there before. You get this 3-ring binder with a great strategy document. It goes up on the shelf and you say, we got a data strategy. And it's sitting there 5 years later and nobody's done anything, right? So within your ends, ways, and means approach of that data strategy, what you want to do, you've got to implement it. You've got to have an action plan. You've got to pin the rose on folks to get things done as part of it. And key to that too is, and Brian was kind of getting at this, governance. You need to wrap a governance component around it, because no strategy or implementation plan is going to be successful without a successful governance plan that everybody's bought into and signed up on. And I'll end with one more thing. You've got to have leadership support all the way to the top. And I'm not just talking about a CIO or a CDO or a CTO. It's got to go all the way to the highest levels of the university to get support, so it's implemented across all verticals of a university, the faculty, the students, and the administration. You've got to have that type of leadership support if you're going to be successful, or the CIO and CDO, or folks like Brian are going to struggle getting it implemented. Thanks, Sherry.
Yawar?
Sure. Thank you, Sherry. I was listening through both Brian and Mike and their perspective, how they are coming into the same place. So, and couldn't agree more that coming to Brian first. So there are a lot of these data science techniques, there are a lot of these modeling things, econometrics, all those things are there, and those are there for years and years, right? And through the invent of machine learning, those are now new capabilities are being invented, where the conventional data science technique can be complemented for faster solution, where previously something was not discoverable. Now through the machine learning process, we could identify those and bring them to the surface, right? So that opportunities are still there. And coming to Mike, where with all those things, again, when Mike was saying that let me step back and start with the data strategy, I absolutely agree with that. That is the first stage. Organizations, these universities and colleges, and like I was saying, that they're sitting on tons of data, right? So first thing, they need to have a data strategy. And then once they have this data strategy, it is also important to have implement a data culture within the organization, like how we use data. Should we be using the data at every step of the way? And it will need to come from the top. It will need to come from the top. That sponsorship will need to come from the top. Because many times in my experience also, I've been working in higher education industry for more than 15 years now. One of the things that I have come across is that there are technology available there. There are strategies you can implement there to go through the data maturity. And there are techniques and tools, data science tools that you can build and that can be very innovative. But if you don't have the setup and process to consume the solution, then it's of no use, right? So that's one of the areas I see big opportunities there, like to set up the mindset and the culture and set up the process so that these type of tools and techniques can be consumed for better adoption and better utilization. And in terms of another particular area that I will see that in the invent and push of machine learning and the advent of LMS advancing and growing, learning analytics is an area that probably will grow even more and more in the coming years, that universities are collecting a lot of data about the students and the faculty, how they teach versus how the students learn and how the contents are developed. So these three areas and coupled with their outcome data, when those are analyzed through machine learning and techniques, it will not only create a better LMS platform, it will create a better student learning environment, and it could heavily improve curriculum development and contents that will be developing. So these are a couple of areas I wanted to highlight.
Great. Well, thank you. Unfortunately, we are running out of time today. So I do want to quickly thank all of our panelists, Dr. Wright, Mike Anderson, and Yawar for joining me today for this panel. And for those of you in the audience, thank you for joining as well. We hope that you enjoy the rest of the event. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry.